Welcome to Cinemophile, where we bring you the best in independent, documentary, and foreign films, and we talk to the people who made them. I'm your host, Mike Caspar, and you can find out more about the program by going to cinemophilepod.com. From Oscar-nominated and Emmy Award-winning filmmaker Poh Si Teng, American doctor, follows three American physicians, Palestinian, Jewish man, and a Zoroastrian, united in a single oath to save lives. All of this is taking place in Gaza. All of it is taking place under the most dire of circumstances. American Doctor is a searing film to watch, and also one that we should all be paying closer attention to. Poh Si Teng, welcome to Cinemophile.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike.
Thank you. Let's get started with the part of the conversation as to when and how did you decide to travel to Gaza to document what was happening?
So I should tell you, I never went to Gaza.
Okay.
It's difficult, as is reported in the news, that it's difficult enough for healthcare workers to get in because ultimately, we know who controls the borders. And so from the get-go, I knew that was not going to be possible. And even though Mark Perlmutter, the Jewish doctor, the eternal optimist, told me, I'm going to train you as a scrub nurse and take you in. I was like, Mark, that is never going to happen. But fortunately, because I used to be a documentary commissioner for Al Jazeera English, and my producer, Reem Haddad, she was as well, we got to work with this incredible cinematographer, Ibrahim Al-Odla, and co-producer, Mohammed Sawaf, who had worked for Al Jazeera English and done some freelance work for them. And they're like, can we work with them? And they said yes. And so what you see in the film, all that's, part of it is in Gaza and part of it is in the United States. The parts in Gaza, it's a testament to their craft and their courage.
Well, what prompted you to embark on the project? How did, because we see the film opens during this relatively brief ceasefire in March of 2025. So is what led up to that part of it?
Long before I was a filmmaker and producing films, I was a journalist. And it really cut really deep seeing journalists and former colleagues of mine at Al Jazeera being targeted and executed, in the beginning of the genocide in the past 2+ years. And so it just dawned on me like, you know what, maybe I should try to do something, and make a film. And this is my first film. So I also didn't know what it would be, to be really honest with you. What would my contribution be? There's so many incredible films by filmmakers, by Gazan filmmakers, by Palestinian filmmakers. What use is my contribution? Then I thought, you know what? I've worn different hats in the entire nonfiction ecosystem. I've been a journalist. I was a camera person. That was my first job. I was a documentary commissioner. I was a grants funder, director. I've raised money for independent documentaries. I was a studio executive. So I thought maybe what I can do is, with all the experience of the past 2 decades, I can go to friends and peers, the best at their craft, and say, hey, I think we're going to make a film, but it's not a film of that. It's going to be what's happening in Gaza is over there. It's going to be what's happening over there is a direct result of what our government is doing.
And these three doctors who we see in the film are remarkable for their craft, their empathy, their ability to communicate what is happening, and their courage for being there in the midst of all of this. And as you have just said, it's journalists, it is healthcare providers, it is children, and we don't want to believe it. And I think this has been one of the issues that for me, someone who has been paying attention to these kinds of events for most of my life. And I want to give a quick shout out to a few news outlets who have been on this. Democracy Now! Has been very much in the forefront of documenting what was happening. I do want to give them some credit because I became aware of it because of their work and other journalists as well. But it's hard to believe, especially someone who is we've seen as an ally and a trusted friend of the United States for so many years to be responsible for this. It's hard to digest. How much of a factor is what I just described in terms of getting people to sign on to this project and or how much resistance? I don't want to get too political as much
No,
as you want to or not, but I'm kind of curious in terms of your journey as a filmmaker to get this to screen. What has that been like for you?
first of all, you can ask anything you want, Mike, and
Okay.
I would love, I actually welcome it. When it comes to the team, I think this was already a year into the genocide, and everybody was like, yes, I would love to do it. In fact, I would halve my rate. Because I also realized as a producer, like if I actually made it for its actual budget, we can never finish the film. It's gonna be hard. And we need to finish it as soon as we can if we want this film to be of any use to anyone. And so a lot of folks half their rate. They're like, this one we want to contribute. So there was no resistance there. And then, of course, to kick off the film, knowing how difficult it is to get funding for anything on Palestine or Palestinians, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to front the money. To quit my job, I'm gonna have to front the money. And I put in $150,000. That's it. I have no money. We need to make this film. So chips are in, it's gonna get made. But I think partly also, I thought I was really experienced as a producer in raising money. 6 months in, nothing. Funders, and these are peers of mine. And as a grants director, peer to peer, like people are running away. I remember actually having to go to a fund event for an entity, and I actually accosted a fellow peer, and because I had applied for a fund, and I said, "What's happening? Like, did you not like the material?" And this person said, "It's not that we don't like the material. You're very brave." He said, this person said that. I'm like, I'm not brave. You know who's brave? The doctors are brave. The people on the ground in Gaza, they're brave. We are just trying. And I remember telling this person, this funder, I said, everything that we've always fought alongside with each other on films, to fund on civil rights movement, on HIV epidemic, on LGBTQ, on the movement for Black lives, you name it. This is the one for our time. You gotta believe that, right? And then this person tells me, well, there's a thing called institutional risk. You do understand that. So that was the major challenge. And Mike, I will tell you, I was in despair because this was 6 months, 7 months into the film. There's no money. We had promised, we had already filmed everything in Gaza. We'd also made a promise to Ibrahim Al-Odla, our cinematographer, and Muhammad Sawaf, our co-producer, that we were going to bring this film to America, and I felt we were done. Then fortunately, some generous donors said, you know what? We believe in it. We wanna support you. So that happened first. And then the second thing too was in terms of Watermelon Pictures, which is co-founded by Hamza Ali and Badia Ali. And they came in initially as Hamza Ali as executive producer and in association with, not to distribute. And Hamza came in and said, you know what? We want to back your film. We believe in your film. And I was already at a point like, oh, and now we have friends who will support us. And it became a lot less lonely. But then soon after, Mike, society shifted.
Yeah.
Society shifted, and entities are only made out of individuals who are courageous. And one very courageous entity, and they were always courageous to begin with. It's in them really. It's the Center for Asian American Media, and that's powered. The funding was powered by the Doris Duke Foundation. They said, "Here's $100,000 unrestricted grant. We believe your film is good. And by the way, I remember the executive director, Don Young, saying, and by the way, you can be public about it." And that's when I felt, yes, it has begun. And then that
Yeah.
was so that was the early challenges, but we got through it by being creative, and then the support came.
Yeah. What can I say except my heart goes out to you and to your courage and to the team that you've put in place to help you get this film to market. I do at this point want to get a little commercial and say that this film is opening in New York
It's
TV
at
or
the Angelica.
Angelica. Okay, there you go. It's also going to be opening here in Los Angeles at the Laemmle Royal and then opening in San Francisco on the 28th. So be looking for this and all the things you were talking about in terms of the difficulties, and you've been hearing about it in other realms in terms of just the institutional, what was you call risk that you were talking about. But one thing has changed in my opinion, in the last year or so, the G word is being used more and more. When it was first talked about genocide is happening in Gaza, we need to be aware of this. You were getting shouted down. People were, you were in for a world of ridicule. And now people are coming to that point where, and I don't know how anyone could look at the hellscape that is Gaza, all of those down buildings, as one of the doctors says in the film. How can there not be tens of thousands of people under those buildings? I think the world, I think where it's changed. It's changed. The landscape has changed. I'm struggling here because it's just such a powerful film, and I want to get to the work that Dr. Ahmad, Dr. Perlmutter, and as well as Dr. Sahad are doing there. I want to talk about the Nasser Medical Complex and what a gut punch it is
Yeah, I mean,
to see
like,
what happens.
honestly, it's like, what really, I guess, I felt so privileged to be in their world. They were just regular physicians, just regular men trying to do something good. And they were trying their best. And I made the film because I needed to believe that they're good men and good people trying their best because I wanted to be like that. But I didn't know the way forward. And so I thought to myself, if they have helped me so much, Dr. Thayer taught me like how to be a leader, how to balance humility and confidence, how to know when you know your word can only go so far and you have to let others go, even though you want to be the one to speak. That is Dr. Thayer. Dr. Mark Perlmutter, in all his undoctorly, how he says things, it's like a breath of fresh air, if I can be really honest, because even myself, like I would tell Mark, hey man, don't say this, have you thought about being a little bit more, strategic, couch it this way? And Mark, who, when he was going into Gaza last year, he was 69, and Mark's like, I'm 69, I have no time. Don't waste time, and I don't want to waste time, you shouldn't either. All right, Mark, you are absolutely correct. So don't mince words when there's a genocide unfolding. Mark. Dr. Feroze, I mean, like he is, you know about Feroze, like he does so much and he's throwing everything on the wall, right? Whatever that can stick. Sometimes I would ask Feroze, I was like, was there a point in doing that podcast where only like 20 people listen? And Pharrell's like, oh, you never know. It's okay. You never know. And because he's so prolific in just in writing and in doing all these interviews, a lot of things stick.
Yeah.
So that I learned, just continue to do and do as much as possible, and something is gonna work out.
Well, all of them are very good at getting the word out. But Dr. Sidhwa is fantastic at articulating these things in real time. He's a cadence to his voice. It's very inviting to hear him talk. But their work, I mean, really, I don't think I focused enough attention on how remarkable it is to work under these conditions, with these wounds that are coming in, a modern warfare is cruel and inhumane on so many different levels, and these weapons that are being used on a civilian population are just hard to imagine. And they come and they approach all of this with a level of optimism and can-do attitude. To watch them work is just amazing.
And I got to learn so much. Like, we got to see because the whole film is a verite film for the most part, very
Yeah.
little archival and maybe a little bit of cell phone footage, but it's all cinematography by Ibrahim Odla. So you really go into a Nasser Medical Complex, all right, of Dr. Feroze Sidhwa and Dr. Mark Pomatter, and like I would see these things where Feroze is like washing. It's not in the film, but he's like washing his hands, and he's like, there's no soap. I'm gonna have to use betadine, or this is subpar, or like they trying to in the film, like you see, like there's somebody that needs surgery on his hand, and oh, the x-ray machine has been broken for a while, and Mark's like, well, can we get another one? It's like, we don't have the parts to fix it. And he's like, and then Mark says to the
Yeah.
other doctor, Dr. Aham, because who's just told him like there's the x-ray machine is broken, this we're gonna have to figure it out. And Mark says, well, like my dad says, you gotta dance with who brought you. So it
Yeah.
was like, the lack of resources, the resilience of the doctors, Gazan and our American doctors, the doctors' banter, in which it was very relatable. And then it's like, them helping and supporting each other to do the best that they can in the midst of a genocide.
And to see the humanity of the people of Palestine, to see the Palestinians, to see them, what they're dealing with, what their families are going through, watching their children die in front of them. I don't know how I would behave. I don't know how, I have no context for understanding on a day-to-day basis what these people are dealing with because they're encircled. And again, they are facing some of the most sophisticated armaments and weaponry and trained army in the world. And there's no way out as far as I
There,
know.
there's no way out, and a political solution is needed here. If the US wanted it to stop, all of it would. And so if we live in a
Yeah,
functioning democracy and we
yeah,
believe like we have some power, then we have to fight for the living, especially when it's our taxpayer money is going to inflict that violence on people.
yeah,
And so I think back of all the doctors, all the healthcare workers, and our own cinematographer, Ibrahim Al-Odla, and co-producer.
yeah.
While they were filming, this was in March 2025, last year. There was already a blockade. As they were filming, they were starving along with their children. Now, that is us. That is what taxpayer money is supporting, like our
Yeah.
government to support another government that's doing this to a people.
Right.
We just felt like, all right, you know what? This is our one shot. This is our one shot to bring the story of what is happening there in Palestine back to the United States. We're not going to waste it. I'm not going to waste this opportunity and this privilege of being in close proximity in Mark, Thayer, and Feroze's world. And we're certainly not going to lose this privilege of, trying our very best to convey the message of the Gazan healthcare workers and the people there.
It's a beautiful film experience and on the level of the technical part of it, what you bring to bear in terms of telling this story, and also I say heartbreaking, but I also have to say to see the humanity, to see the humanity under these dire conditions is hopeful. It is enriching to see people who are able to maintain their level of humanity in the midst of all of this. And I grew up in an era where I was fervently demonstrating against the war in Vietnam and my government, and I could be vehemently, virulently anti-American government policy and love my country. And there's no reason in the world where we can't make that same distinction about the Israeli government and what they're as opposed to this policy and the Jewish people. These are very different. They're very analogous to me.
Yeah.
And I so when I hear people saying that the things that they say about anti-Semitism based just on critiquing something that is so obviously happening, it troubles me beyond words. It does. It
You know,
just I can't.
Mike, I'll have to credit the Jewish community. They have been so warm and welcoming
Good.
to me. And in fact, some of our peers, I mean, a lot of our peers who have shielded and protected our project have been Jewish, and they have given me a lot of comfort. They have told me, keep going. They have told me, if anything happens, you call us, because it's
Yeah.
so lonely an experience.
Yeah.
And so I am so grateful to the
Yeah.
community, and it takes everybody, it takes all communities to,
Yes, it
to
does.
come together. And that's given me a lot of hope. Say when I made the film, I in that one year, I didn't talk to anybody. I just talked to my producers, the doctors, of course. I really was that maybe I was there a little bit more than they wanted me to. I was always in their lives because I adore them so much. And then my editor, and that was it.
Yeah.
I just was so angry that I didn't want to punch anybody around me, because they were living their lives as they would. But and so I'm not going to talk to anybody for one year. And since the film premiered at Sundance, it's been
Yeah.
8 months in the road. I'm speaking again, and I feel very different now than I
Yeah.
did 8 months ago, a year and a half ago. And yeah, we are only going to go forward. I mean, we have to. We really don't have a choice. And the people in Palestine, they need us to move forward for
Yeah.
them.
Amen to that. And just one last comment, and that is every single civil right, human right in this country that has gained traction has been in large part due to the efforts the people of the Jewish community. They have been in the forefront of every single effort to improve the lives of people in this country. So, thank you. I'm so glad to hear what you're saying. I'm so glad that I had an opportunity to watch American Doctor, and congratulations to you for your tenacity, perseverance, and your skill as a director. It's a wonderful documentary film.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. We've been speaking with Poh Si Teng. She is the director of American Doctor. Again, it's in New York right now, at the Angelica. It's also in LA next week on August 21st at the Laemmle Royal, and in San Francisco.
I'll say, Mike, when we started the film, if nobody was going to distribute us, fine, we make it for us as a record. Now, fast forward to today, I just learned that we're going to be in more than 77 theaters across US and Canada. It is beyond my wildest
Oh,
imagination.
that's
And I
fantastic.
also know that this is just the beginning. So everybody who's listening,
Yeah,
if you wanna do something, come and watch the film. Bring your friends, bring your family,
yeah.
because it has helped me, and I hope that it can help you too.
Watermelon, as a distributor, they're doing some fantastic work. I just saw a Sad and Beautiful World, and there's so much of their work lately. It's been fantastic. So glad to see they're involved.
Since you're bringing out watermelon pictures, it's in this landscape of distribution, it is very important for films, especially films like my film, to have a different way forward. And watermelon is both comforting and also exciting because it tells you that it can be done differently.
Yeah,
And the co-founders, Hamza Ali and Badia Ali, I'm telling you, they're people with vision. They may have started with films in Palestine, and look at how their portfolio is
yeah.
expanding. And I say this as somebody, not just because, what they've done for my film, I say this as an experienced executive for a
Mm.
studio.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Poh Si Teng. Thank you so very much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike.
You have been listening to Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar, the place where you will hear from the best in independent documentary and foreign filmmakers. Please check out our previous interviews as well as upcoming interviews and special programming by going to cinemaphilepod.com. We are also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, searchable under Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar. Until next time, thank you for listening.